Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and I specifically want to talk about the earth-shattering ramifications of Taldorei Reborn coming to D&D Beyond and becoming D&D canon, right? So, first of all, is Taldorei Reborn D&D canon? I think very clearly the answer to that is yes, because Taldorei Reborn currently is being sold on D&D Beyond. And what is the product that's being sold? It's the content of Taldorei, and this is from D&D Beyond's description. It is the content of Taldorei Reborn on D&D Beyond and built into the character builder. That literally means that you can build a character that is going to mix Faerun, pure D&D canon, Strixhaven, pure D&D canon, and Taldorei Reborn, which is now pure D&D canon, but was not intended to be. And so the story of Taldorei Reborn is fascinating, because what we're really looking at is we're looking at what worlds. It's a lesson, right, that everybody needs to learn. What is Dungeons & Dragons canon? It is whatever they choose it to be, and it is the best of the best, right? And there is a road to becoming D&D canon that cannot be ignored. And that road is you connect yourself to Dungeons & Dragons remotely, then directly, right? And so Taldorei Reborn, what's really fascinating about Taldorei Reborn, Matthew Mercer's section of Exandria that was supposed to never go to Dungeons & Dragons, right? It was like, oh, hey, you know, here's your Wildmount book, here's your Netherdeep book. But this Taldorei part here, this is separate, right? This is just Critical Role, right? And we need to keep these partitions up. These walls are up. You guys need to know that this is Critical Role's content. No, right? And it was Critical Role's content until until it became super obvious that no one on Critical Role but Matthew Mercer would do even 1 minute of work, right? And this just got proven on Candela Obscura. Right, that was given to Taliesin Jaffe, and he was like, and Matthew Mercer's like, I'm doing all the lifting. Can you handle this, right? And he didn't handle it, right? He's like, hey, you copied Blades in the Dark with Bands in the Dark, right? Why don't you make a copy for us, and we'll just file the serial number off, right? And everybody was like, this is refried beans. What are you talking about, man? Like, so the reality is, what's really fascinating is the path to becoming a Dungeons & Dragons world. And now, increasingly, right, these different intellectual properties objections that these worlds are separate from Dungeons & Dragons fall on deaf ears. Because everybody's like, well, okay, you're saying Warhammer is not D&D canon right now, even though you printed it in Magic the Gathering? That just means it's going to be D&D canon 6 months from now or 12 months from now. I have to wait 12 months before I get a book where a Space Marine is fighting Elminster, right? On the grounds of Strixhaven, right? And then it'll be 6 months after that before Mickey Mouse shows up. And this is the issue, right? And this is huge. Like, it is one of the biggest changes in Dungeons & Dragons, because Dungeons & Dragons says, we get even the people who say we can't get it, right? We get the worlds that people say, no, this is separate. Taldorei is separate. Is it? Yeah. Because Critical Role is going to push that world forward? Oh, and you guys realize that the quality on Wizards of the Coast it's not just a name, it is quality, and that you actually have to work to create a good tabletop role-playing game. And even beyond that work doesn't stop on the design table. It actually goes into the packaging, the lore, the promotion, the blockbusters, the video games, the cards, the Yahtzee dice, and you're not even willing to even do the basic design, right? And so Taldorei Reborn is the story of a world that was never intended for Dungeons & Dragons that is now Dungeons & Dragons canon. And it tells every single product that's ever even remotely connected itself to Dungeons & Dragons, you're on the path. You will be a canon world, right? And the reason why is you think you can do what we do, but you can't, right? And increasingly, OSR and indie companies are proving, right? And that's Darrington Press. That's Hollywood energy, Hollywood resources, and they couldn't get it done. They're like, we better just put Taldorei Reborn where it belongs as a canon D&D world. That product was never intended. It was specifically intended to be separate from Dungeons and Dragons. It's D&D canon now, right? Exactly like Lord of the Rings is going to be canon. Exactly like Final Fantasy is going to be canon. Exactly like Warhammer is going to be canon. Exactly like Assassin's Creed is going to be canon, in my humble opinion. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider like and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.